Hi, guys. Welcome to Chemo Glow, where the glow doesn't define me, I define the glow. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please check us out where podcasts are available. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you can listen to a podcast, you can find us. Chemo Glow Live and Chemo Glow Podcast can be found on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. There's no reason why you can't get in touch with us. Check us out every Wednesday at 8 p.m. We're going to be here and we're going to have some fabulous guests. Next week, I actually have another guest, Janine Jones, who also volunteers with me at UNC. So I'm really looking forward to having her on. And you guys, if you want to share your glow, please email us at chemoglow@gmail.com. We will be dropping Janine's podcast right after this, and the live will be scheduled right after we click off here. So make sure you guys put it on your calendar and sign up. Now, we've been celebrating Volunteer Month in the month of April. I have volunteered with UNC in different capacities, and I can't believe that my guest, I actually got her to come on. I've been talking to her for like, 3 months, and she says only I can bring her on. So I am so happy to welcome Michelle Manning. Yay!
Yes, you were the only one that could make me do this.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you? I love the tagline.
Thank you. And I love what you have going on behind you. Like I would stand there all the time, drinking coffee, drinking tea, doing a little bit of work and watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. Have a little something right here myself. Yes. Tell us what you do at UNC.
So I have a fancy title that doesn't say anything about what I do, which is Deputy Director for Administration of the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program at UNC. So basically what that means is the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program, we lovingly call CCSP because it has the longest name known to man. And so in CCSP, our job is basically to provide all of the support for patients and families going through treatment, and then also afterwards somewhat as well. But we focus on patients that are in treatment. So we do counseling, we do patient education, we do research, which I'm really involved in. We do support groups, which you know about. So, and then we do some survivorship groups as well. So,
and that's how I met you. I met you there because of everything that was going on with me. And I joined the Young Survivor Coalition, the YSC, right? I joined them and Liz was there. And then you came in and it was just like amazing. You were dedicated to making sure that we felt safe because it was hard to find a place just to feel safe at. Yeah. So I want to welcome you. And so does another guest, welcome you to our show tonight. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your background, because you had a lot. Your bio was extensive.
old. And my picture was pre-glasses. So, but now that I'm older, I've always been in oncology actually, since I graduated from college, believe it or not. And I went to undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill and was just really interested in science, didn't know what I wanted to do, and then figured out with organic chemistry that I was not going to be a doctor. So I just kind of wanted to stay involved in health and found the Lineberger Cancer Center, which is the comprehensive cancer center there at UNC. And so I, my first job there was in 1998.
Wow.
So I was working with patients that were on clinical trials, so prostate cancer patients. And I was like a 23-year-old little baby. So it was like working with your grandparents. So, but it was awesome. So I've been in it ever since and just kind of, moved within UNC and got my master's in public health, actually in health education, because I wanted to focus on oncology education.
So being there, working with, you've been there for quite a few
Ever.
years. You
Forever.
said it, I didn't.
Yeah,
You see
forever.
so many people come into the resource center, and a lot of people don't know that it's there.
Yeah.
So, what are they doing to make sure that they know that there's a PFAC? They know that you guys are there, and they know that there are resources. It's because Liz came up to me and said, "Hey, check us out. You might need this." So,
Yeah.
what are some things you guys are doing to reach out to other people to let them know you're there?
Well, I mean, I think it's like a lot of things where you have to just keep saying it over and over again.
Mhm.
The resource center is actually a great little space, and it looks like a library.
Mhm.
Other
Kinda
than
looks
my
like what's
baby,
behind you.
looks like me, like my space. Um, but people are so busy going to appointments and back and forth, you just think it's a library, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have time to go to the library. So we are working on trying to kind of revamp that space. That's coming at some point. I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. Um,
Mhm.
but just trying to advertise as many different ways that we can. And really, in this last year with COVID, gave us a great opportunity to promote everything we're doing, but do it via phone calls. And so
Mhm.
some of my amazing colleagues in the Patient Family Resource Center started having lay navigators who weren't allowed into the hospital because of COVID. They started making phone calls and just making sure that patients knew about um, everything that we had to offer, like everything I mentioned, plus, more.
Mhm.
So you didn't have to come into the library. And we really got an amazing response, and I think really connected people with more resources than we've been able to in the past.
Yeah, Toma Hargrave, she's been on the show before, and
Mhm.
she talked about that actual program and how she loves it. She
Yep.
is amazing. I did some training under her, and she is like a social butterfly, but so like, here you go, in your face. These are the things that we have, but it's in such a kind way. And it takes so many people to do that. It takes a special person to do
Yeah.
that, to
Yeah.
be able to connect and do those things. So what are some new things that you guys are working on in the resource center? I know I sit on the PFAC committee, and
Mhm.
we're working on parking
Oh
for
gosh, please.
and people don't understand. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, on top of going through treatment, right? Now you have to park. First of all, you got to find a space to park.
Right.
Then you have to pay.
Yep.
No telling how long you're going to be in there because you see all your doctors at once, which is a great thing.
Yep.
But it could last for a very long time. And then you're sitting in there and you're thinking about how much do I have to pay for parking?
Right. Well, and not to mention, if you're somebody who's come in and you actually need to be inpatient for whatever reason for a little
Oh,
bit,
yes.
then it all just kind of racks up. Yeah. That has been something that, has just driven me nuts for the whole 20 something years I've been there.
Yeah.
Um, and the explanation I've gotten is that the parking deck is not owned by the
I,
hospital, it's owned by the university. And
yeah.
so in our world, that means two completely different entities, which they are, of course.
Hmm.
And so, you know, there's always been a push to do that. And I've been lucky in my various different research projects and programs that I've gotten to interview some patients. And the number one thing that they mention is parking. So, I mean,
Oh,
it's,
it's an
it's
extra
just,
bill.
yeah,
It's
yeah. And
true.
especially if you're somebody who already has trouble paying, and
Hmm.
so one of our newest projects that we're working on is related to financial toxicity. So, which is kind of a buzzword for what,
Hmm.
those of us in oncology have known for years, which is cancer is expensive. Nobody has enough money to pay for it,
Yes.
regardless of what your insurance is. And then if you have no insurance, obviously you can't pay for it. So, I mean, how are these people supposed to get $12 a day of parking?
Yeah.
Too. So I'm so glad you're working on that. And if anybody can make it happen, it's you. And I know a couple other people on that committee that
Yes.
also could make it happen.
Oh my goodness. The team is, we have to meet on Tuesday. This Tuesday we meet, and I'm telling you, the head of the team, she is not playing because there's other places at UNC that you don't have to pay for parking.
Right?
And it's like, and if you're going through radiation, you don't have to pay for parking, but
Yep.
you're in and out. So if you did have to pay for parking, you're in and out. You're not there for the whole entire day. So it's very important that we do something about parking, because again, I don't care how much money you have.
Yeah.
Cancer is expensive.
Hmm.
Yeah, we had
Exactly.
great insurance, but we were able to file our parking on our taxes because that's how much we parked there during
That's
my
right.
first 2 years of treatment. So
Yeah.
yeah, but we are working on some things. The PFAC actually fed. How many people did we feed? All the doctors for the past year. We've been making sure that we've been dropping off meals to make sure that they are good, because they're taking care of so many people. And then you add COVID on top of that, and we just stopped our last meal last Wednesday. But Loretta, she's
Oh,
gonna.
she is a force. You need to have
She's gonna.
her on here if you haven't already. That woman can make stuff happen. She's definitely one of those people that, I'm a very big fan. She can
Oh,
definitely move some mountains.
she's one of those people who can call me and make me do stuff. So I'm there.
Like you do to me. Yeah.
There we go. But parking is so important. What are some other things that have come up during COVID? Because your resource center, is it open right now?
It is not really, actually, I
Mhm.
have to say. So we're really trying to stick to the calls because during all of this COVID, they have kind of used that space for other, things have to get commandeered.
Mhm.
To kind of make the COVID process work. So it's not open, but hopefully it will be soon. Um, but really, our whole group had to like change our whole way of working. I mean,
Mhm.
telemedicine now, which I'm really excited about, and hopefully we'll be able to maintain a lot of that
Mhm.
even when we go back to post COVID.
Yes.
Um, but that really, we shifted everything to virtual, and um, several of my colleagues have done an amazing, amazing job and gotten more attendance. Um,
Mhm. So like
doing,
you feel like you're spending more time with your doctor,
yeah,
which is great. And I'm actually sitting on a new committee, and we're partnered up with a hospital in Chicago, and we meet on Thursday to talk about that and how we can get more people, or find out if it's actually a problem for different minorities, whether or not they are comfortable with telehealth.
that's a
Because,
great, because I worry, I am from a very small town in North Carolina.
Mhm.
We had one stoplight growing up. Now we have Walmart, some other stuff, so we're good.
We are moving up.
Um, but I always just have a very special place in my heart for rural North Carolina
Mhm.
patients, and a lot of them travel 2.5 hours, sometimes 4 hours to come to UNC specifically because we're a public cancer center. Um,
Mhm.
and so they may not have internet access. There's all kinds of things. I mean, I think smartphones have really helped because a lot of people have
Have that.
smartphones. Um,
Mhm.
but still, making sure that people can access it, um, especially for things like support groups, um, and any kind of counseling stuff that's additive to your actual treatment process. You
Yeah,
shouldn't have a problem with that.
and did you know, if like we have one person in our group where they're in Virginia and they can't do a telehealth from UNC, so they
Okay.
have to drive down because of insurance.
Yes. Yeah. So the good thing about telemedicine and COVID is
Mhm.
that insurance started reimbursing more for it. So we were able to do it. And so, you know, the big question is the insurance going to keep supporting telehealth, or are they going to, go back to say, oh no, you have to do in person? But there are a lot of little quirks to it, like
Yeah,
crossing state lines, things like um, that are really tough.
and I had no idea, because so many people come to UNC for
Right.
care that
Right.
they don't live in North Carolina.
Yep.
And so I like telemedicine, telehealth. I like where it's going. However, we need to make sure we fill in those gaps.
Yes. Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
for next year, we need to make sure, because I don't think we're going back this year. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think, yeah, I don't think so either. I think I think this horse is out of the barn in terms of telemedicine. So I can't imagine how we would um, put that back in the barn,
Yeah, yeah.
as a rural North Carolina girl would say. Um, so I don't think so. And then even I'm trying to figure out kind of how healthcare providers go back, because a lot of them that are seeing um, patients are back now.
Hmm.
People like me who do somewhat administrative, also manage a support group
Hmm.
that can work from home, or still working from home. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of when we officially open back up. And I do have to say, UNC, I think, has done a great job of keeping kind of us informed and patients informed um, of how it's going. So,
Yeah, and speaking from working from home, you live a couple of states away.
in Maryland, yeah.
In Maryland. And you would drive down every month for the YSC meeting. Why is
Yep.
that so important to you? Tell us a little bit about the YSC and why you and UNC decided to partner up with them.
Yeah, so actually, I was introduced to YSC, the Young Survival Coalition, through Kat Jamitter, who I think you had on last week.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, and she is a great advocate. And I think for me, it spoke to me personally because I was of the age group of that support group.
Hmm.
And so, like you mentioned, my colleague Liz Sherwood, who I just think is amazing, really kind of terrified me to follow her because she recommended me. And then I just think she's just so amazing. I could listen to her talk forever. So I was a
I'm,
little,
I want to call her and say, "Hey, can you come on, please?"
you should, you totally should. You absolutely should.
If I
Um,
do, I'm bringing you back on with her.
uh, he was just so amazing. So I was a little worried about it, but I just love the group. I mean, I'm a big believer in support in
Hmm.
any way that you can get it, and I'm a big believer that um, even if we're well-intentioned healthcare providers, there's nothing like somebody who's been through it, and I mean there isn't. And so we can empathize as much as we can, and we can provide people with resources and things like that, but unless you've actually been through it, you can't understand. So I
Yeah,
think you can try your best and you can educate yourself, but there's nothing like um somebody that supports each other. And so that is why I drive 5 hours back, because I just love that group. And I've been there long enough now, which I don't even know. I mean, I think I joined the group 5 or 6 years ago.
yeah,
Time
yeah,
time
yeah.
flies. But I remember one of the most amazing things to me was when I joined, and a couple people that were in treatment and kind of just starting the process, and
Hmm.
then 6 months, a year later, now they are providing support for the people. Uh-huh. You and Kat too are actually two of the people that I think do it best.
Oh, thank you.
You do. I mean, I think you both have just a gift for that. And so
Yeah,
I'm so glad you have like this podcast, and that she's got a nonprofit now. I mean, I think a lot of people want to give back and they don't know how to give back. And I think the two of you have really, you know, redefined giving back. So,
I
um,
volunteer for her, and I love it because first of all, we're going to a resort. We're and I'm the person who floats around and makes sure everything's good because they do so much work, and seeing the women just have a moment of respite.
yep.
That's why it's called Healing Pines Respite. Have a moment of respite and healing during that time. It's actually an honor to do anything with them. I've been on 2 retreats with them, and I can't wait for us to get back started, whether we're out at the park doing a day spa or doing yoga or whatever it might be. But Kat brings so much to the table. And it was so nice that I was able to fill in for her for a little bit while
Yeah.
you were on vacation.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Um, I finally got to see my sister and her family after this year of COVID. So,
Yes, but
but yeah, so that group I think is just really special. And to watch, it seems like a privilege to me to be able to watch women helping other women through it. So, and to see people come in that, are scared, and
Mhm.
by the end of it are just like, oh, I'm so glad I came. I mean, I think support groups too, people think we just sit around and cry, and
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that asked me about them, I'm like, we laugh a lot more than
Mhm.
we cry in support groups, and people are just sharing information and supporting each other. So I always encourage people, even if you think you wouldn't like a support group, just try it once. If you don't
Try
like it, yeah, don't come back. That's totally fine.
go somewhere else. If you don't
Yep.
like it, go somewhere else.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's see who's in here. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, please make sure feel free to ask us. This is very laid back. I'm sitting here not just talking to someone who supported me, but also a friend. And so I am like, Michelle, you don't know what you gave to that, um,
Wow.
to us every time you listen. If we said, hey, we're having this issue with chemo brain, you brought someone in. I still have the printout I sent to you on my phone because it was so important to me. If we
Yep.
wanted to talk about nutrition, if we want to talk about sexual health, if we want to talk about all these things, you always made sure that you did your homework to help us. And even Terry, she's on.
Oh, Terry.
And she says, how do you restore yourself while working with cancer and patients most of your career? That's a good one, Terry. Good
Yeah,
one.
go Terry. That's a great question. Well, I've always been a big believer in self-care. So,
Hmm.
um, and for me, it is serial killer true crime shows that I just kind of escape and watch
Dexter.
those. Yes, Dexter. So those, and then I love to read. So I read probably a book, and Terry and I have this in common actually,
Yep.
um, with the murder mysteries and the reading.
Hmm.
But I like to read. But honestly, it actually energizes me to do this. I mean, like the support group, every time I leave the support group, I am just kind of like on a high. Like it just energizes me to see people helping each other. And so, um, there's definitely some sadness, like if
Yeah.
you know somebody that's had a recurrence, or,
Yeah.
somebody passes away, for sure. But um, I just get so much more out of it that it kind of energizes me. But I do definitely believe in self-care. I
Yes.
love naps. Yep.
Yeah.
So
You got to have them. But you also came to visit me in the hospital. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
My husband asks about you all the time now.
Oh,
'Cause
that's so
he can put
sweet.
a face with a name, and he's like, "How is she doing?" And I was like, "She's married in Maryland. She's gone." And you guys connected during that time when I just sent out a text, "Hey, I'm here," and all of a sudden the doctors were there, people that I've worked with, volunteered with. But you also visit us when we're outside of that environment of the
Yep.
support group, and that was so helpful for me and for my husband because he was able to see this is what I'm going to. These are the
Yeah.
people that I'm meeting. So again, you are amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, and I think about him all the time, actually, too. Which actually that sounds bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so, because um, one thing that I really want us to do more of, and Loretta Musk does it now, and she does a
Mhm.
great job, is caregiver support.
Yes.
And I am very much a proponent for caregiver support, because I think, well, I mean, there's literature everywhere that talks about how the caregivers, some of their, health outcomes are worse than patients. I mean, they
Yeah.
just definitely don't take any time for self care and feel like, they empathize with the patient, of course, and try to do everything they possibly can because they
Yes.
can't go to treatment with you. And it wears you down just like it wears down patients. So I want us to do more caregiver stuff, and we're doing it. Like we've gotten a great person from the National Cancer Institute that came down, that's in the School of Public Health, who wants to do more caregiver support. And figure out how to do kind of online caregiver support. Because the hardest thing, and Loretta, of course, has figured out the key, which is if you
Yes.
want to get them together in person, you need to bake.
Yes.
That woman can bake. So I actually love to bake. I don't like to cook, but I do love to bake, but I'm not that level. I mean, she's like Martha Stewart level. But it's hard to get caregivers to take time for themselves. And so, she's working on a couple ideas for how to do some online support. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep, you can go online and do some stuff. So I'm really excited about that. I think we can do more, and we should do more for caregivers. So I always think about him though, because he was
Oh yeah,
he let
he
me
did
interview him.
something.
Yeah, he let me interview him and talk about it, and so we can hopefully get a group together at some point.
Yeah, caregivers. I'm telling you, the support. Talanya is on, and she said caregiver support, especially for men, is so vital. It
Yep.
is so vital, especially for men. Like we have to make sure that we take care of the caregiver and they feel a part of the process. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to be interviewing, I don't know if you know her, Dr. Gaddy, Jacqueline Gaddy. She's new at UNC, but 2 years ago, Loretta had my husband and I sit down and talk to her. And when I asked her, I just randomly asked her, "Hey, would you be on my podcast?" She says, "I still remember you from when you and your husband came and you talked to first year residents." And they wanted the caregiver thing. And I was like, wow, that she said it had an impact on how I treat my patients.
Oh, that's
Um,
fantastic.
I love it. And only Loretta can get my husband to come out and do a caregiver
Yeah, I mean,
support
I think
thing.
just they don't think about it. I
Yeah.
mean, they're trained to think about the patient, the patient, the patient. And so,
Mhm.
you know, I just think we can do so much more. And just like with support groups, like you have to hear from the people that have been through it. And we talk in our support group some about like the layers. And I think it was Liz actually that
Mhm.
first mentioned the layers. But often, the caregivers hanging in there during the treatment process, and then they're like, okay, now I can breathe. Now you're quote unquote back to normal. We can get back to our
Yeah.
normal life. And then they start dealing with their stuff that was like kind of buried. So I
Yeah,
definitely think
I'm finding that out. I actually just asked my husband how is he doing with the 10-year because he went through it. I went through it, and I was very private at the very beginning and didn't talk about it. So it's amazing that I'm on this this podcast doing chemo glow because when I came in I was in my shell. I was very mad, very like I just got married, I want to have kids, and I was so into my head. So when we had an honest conversation about, so what do you think now, and he said, I have lived through it and I'm so ready for it to be in the rearview mirror. And my comment was, I wish it could be like in my rearview mirror, which it is. But every day I wake up, I see the scars. I have the lymphedema. It's in the rearview mirror. But for patients and people who've gone through it, it's still sitting right there. But the
yeah.
good thing is not sitting on my chest anymore.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
it's
my you've heard us talk about this. One of my favorite
Mhm.
things that I think it was a UN, considering how much I say it, I should remember who did it. Who said it first. But they talk about like cancer as a backpack.
Yes.
And so the idea that when you're first diagnosed, it feels like you've got like this backpack just sitting in your lap, just sitting on your
Mhm.
chest. And then after a little bit, it'll be kind of in the seat next to you, and then you'll realize it goes further and further. So then it's in the
Mhm.
back seat. And then one day it won't be the first thing that you think about in the morning when you wake up.
Yeah.
And so I just like that analogy of it kind of as a backpack. And so it's there, but it's
But
not
yeah.
here.
Yeah, mine's in the trunk right now, and sometimes I just leave it in the garage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's where I'm with it. I'm like in a good mental space, but it takes the support group. It takes having someone like a Talanya, a Terry, a Katarina to help support you while you're going through and still being able to have those conversations, because some of us have had reoccurrences. Some of us have had surgeries because of the side effects or the medication, and we're dealing with different things. So
Yep.
people think, well, you're 10 years out, you're 10 years clear. Absolutely not.
No,
Like
no.
I do, right when what was it, 2 weeks ago that I stepped in a little bit for the YSC. I am so ready to go back. And I've already contacted one of the ladies that were on there, and we're going back and forth, just checking in. Because
See, that's what I mean. Like, that's the
yes,
magic of it. That's just, which first of all, thank you again for doing that while I was on vacation. But it just warmed my heart when you told me, you're like, I think I'm coming back
yeah,
because,
just
um,
let me know. I'm going to be there.
yeah. And, like, people need to see somebody 10 years out, which congratulations on 10 years. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. I needed to see that because Kat was like, when I met you, you were such a mess. And Talanya could tell you the same thing. I was such a mess. Terry was such a mess. We were all such a mess coming in. My hair maybe was coming back at that time. And I had no idea what was next because all I did was treatment for so many days. So it's nice to see other people. And that's what the women, for me, want to see, that you can get through this and
Yeah.
you can come and say whatever you want in those support groups, and no
Yep.
one's looking at you funny. You
Yep.
just talk about what's going on, and you're so dedicated that you were in a car accident.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that, because you came and sat in the support group with your back brace.
Okay. So I could be a little crazy. Um, but yeah, like, gosh, it's been 5 years now since
Yeah,
that. But it was just one of those, fluky things where, it was just like they say, where you're about to get off the exit, like your exit. I was literally, my exit on 40 was, I could see it in front
yeah,
of me. And it was, that typical Raleigh, Chapel Hill. I lived
traffic.
in Durham at the time, traffic, that stop and go traffic. And we had just been, going regular speed, and then traffic slowed down. And I looked in my rearview mirror and saw this guy like coming, and he was going regular speed, and I was like stopped at that point. And I just looked and I was like, he's not gonna be able to stop, and hit me going like 80 miles an hour, flipped me, you know. I luckily I blacked out at some point, so I didn't hear. I woke up on the side of 40, and
Oh
I
wow,
just reconnected with my high school sweetheart. And I think I
I
told you
remember
this
that.
before, but like I remember laying on the side of the road, and it literally Mike and I had reconnected maybe 6 weeks before that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think your life is supposed to flash before your eyes and all this stuff, but all I could sit there and think was, this is not a Nicholas Sparks novel where we have all this amazing romance and then somebody keels over at the end. So I was like, I'm not going out like that, by golly. So I'm not sure what kind of moment I had on the side of the road, but um, yeah, it was just a crazy driver. And then, but the biggest thing from that is that there was a good Samaritan who
Mm.
saw saw it happen, had apparently already called 911 on the guy, like
Oh
3 or 4 miles before he even hit me, because I think he was driving kind of erratically or something.
yeah.
And so the police hadn't gotten there to him yet by the time he hit me. But this guy, I think he had some kind of military background or something, but
Mm-hmm.
thought to block the road so that nobody else would crash into us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he held my hand, and he's the one person I remember from that day. And actually, my mom, my mom thought I made him up. She thought I was seeing stuff probably, and he was not real.
Uh-huh.
But that whole day, I just kept thinking, I need to find that man. I need to find that man, because all he did was hold my hand, and
Wow.
it turns out I had broken like 9 of my ribs and had a collapsed lung and had a lot going on. And so I was having trouble breathe, like taking deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
He just kept me relaxed, and I've always wondered, would I stop if I saw a wreck like that? I would obviously call for help and stuff, but I didn't know if I'd stop. And
Yeah.
by golly, I will pay it forward, because
Yes.
even in moments like that, there's always that one person that's there for you. So even this complete stranger that made me feel better, that my mom thought I made up. So, but I was in the ER going, find the man, find the man.
Like who is this? And like, what did y'all give her? Did you ever find him?
I did.
You did.
So
Oh
luckily,
man.
I think he stayed, and somehow I got it on some kind of police report or something. So
Yeah.
I reached out to him and I just said, I wanted to say thank you because, you just kept me calm. So,
Oh,
I don't know. And so I just, if you can do that for anybody, whether it's kind of helping in a support group or connecting people with resources
mhm.
or whatever, you just got to do your part.
And seeing you come in and still want to sit, because we were sitting and
Yeah.
sometimes we'd run over the hour, but you're really good with honing people in. Okay, guys, let's refocus, or however you say. I do that in my trainings now. I use that.
I
Okay,
cried.
guys, let's come back. Because, sometimes we do ask some really, really good questions and they can land us in talking there a little bit more, but it allowed us to make friends outside of the support group.
Yep. And
And
almost at the end of every group, one or two, sometimes four or five, would stand in the parking lot and talk for a while after.
yeah, that was me at the beginning. Then I was like, look, here's my number. Call me on the way home.
At a later date.
Because these groups are at 7. I'm not going to get home. And I was living in Durham at the time, and we were doing it in Chapel Hill. But also, when we moved and started doing it at the coffee house, that was
Yep.
nice of them that they allowed us to sit in there after their doors were closed.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I
and
just love that. I mean, I think Chapel Hill, obviously, I'm slightly biased since I went to undergrad and graduate school there, and I worked there and live in a different state. But
just a little.
yeah, it's a special place, and I love the sense of community that helps each other out. They do a lot of restaurants do a lot for Lineberger,
Mhm.
and patients in general, and just it's a very supportive kind of community. So it was great. They stayed open an extra hour for us,
Yeah.
and even kept a barista there in case we needed coffee.
Yeah. And the coffee was good
Yeah,
because
it
I'm a
was.
coffee snob, and the
See, I'm
coffee was
not
good.
because I don't drink coffee,
You know,
which
you get your
I
tea.
thought that happened when you became an adult. It just happened. But for me, it's still Diet Mountain Dew.
Because you're from rural North Carolina.
Yes, I probably will die from yellow number 5, whatever that is, because my inside very much could be pickled at this point.
We
Do
all
not
have our
recommend that
vices.
to other people. Yeah.
We all have our vices. Well, Terry also she's made a comment here, and she said she felt cut off when active treatment actually ended. The group was a good touchstone, and it was true because, like you said, they drop you off. And Liz used to say this when she says you go through cancer, you're like dropped off in this foreign country, you don't know what's going on, but after you're done, everything's foreign too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
everybody's life has moved on, and you've been kind of in this I just want to live mode, that you forget that other people's lives have moved on and you're kind of looking like yourself, so people think you're okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is such a good point, Terry. Um, yeah, and we don't do such a great job of that. I mean, I think you're right. I think when you first get diagnosed, you are in this, I'm going to get through it. Like, I just need to survive. And you've got this team of like nurses, pharmacists, doctors.
Mhm.
You're there all the time. And then you come to the end, you maybe ring your bell if it's chemo. And
Yeah.
then it's like, we'll see you in 3 months or 6 months. And there's nobody to help you deal
Yeah.
with all those emotions of like, well, wait, no, people need to check on me every 3
Mhm.
weeks because I need to, like that whole like you're on your own thing. So I think that's a really great point, Terry. And there's actually, there's actual literature to support the fact that that is one of the most stressful times for people going through cancer is
It
right
is.
there when it's like, okay, we'll see you for scans in 6 months or 3 months. It kind of depends on what type of cancer you have, but
Yeah.
and you just feel like you're dropped off a cliff. Um, yeah. So
With
we
nowhere to
started
go.
yeah, we started a group called Cancer Transitions.
Love
That
that group.
Yeah, so that is specifically for people who have finished treatment. Um, and it was created by actually the Livestrong Foundation,
Mhm.
the Cancer Support Community,
Mhm.
um, which was formerly Gilda's Club, I think. Um,
Yes.
And so they created this thing called Cancer Transitions, and we found out about it, and we didn't really have anything that we were doing for people at the time. So this was like in 2008, I guess, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we started it, and the way it was designed was like a 6 week, you have to come to all 6 weeks. The first session is on just kind of welcoming. It's kind of a soft,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's a session on coping, there's a session on nutrition, there's a session on physical activity, on medical management. I mean, it's really just a wellness program. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly. But so we did it, and we had a really good response. But as with all programs, it's hard for people to find out about it. And even if you advertise it, if you're in the zone of just, I need to survive this, like there's always a struggle of when to let people know about which resources. And, to me, I'm like, you just do it multiple times, and one time it's
That's what it
hit.
has.
But
That's
even
exactly what Liz did. Multiple times I was having trouble with medication, and I just reached out to her. I was like, this is too much. I'm hooked up to the chemo chair and I'm just so over it. And she came up there, and that's when she told me about YSC. Then she told me about cancer transition. And then my husband went with me. He was the only person who was there, only male that was there. And that's the first time he heard chemo brain. And he's like, oh, it's real. Yeah,
yeah, it's very real. Very real.
very real. But the fact that he was there and he's like, okay, I get it. And they explained it in a way for him to get it, because I couldn't explain what was going on. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, well, wah, 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 wah. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, exactly. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
having
still have
those
the
different
energy.
programs.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm going through chemo brain. I don't want to talk about chemo brain. Like,
exactly. I can't figure it out. But
listen to
having
this.
that, and I went to the Live Strong program. After that, I went Live Strong. I did Get Real and Heal. I did the yoga, cornucopia.
Yep,
Like,
cornucopia house.
yeah, cornucopia house. Who cleaned my house? There's the lovely people. They pay it forward. What is it called?
Is it the Pay It Forward Foundation?
It wasn't the Pay It Forward Foundation, but they talked about paying it forward.
Or the Community Foundation?
It was one. It was through UNC, but they came every month for 3 months to clean my house, like detail clean. Like I wanted to use them, but I called them afterwards and they gave me the price. I was like, thank you, but no, thank you. So the fact that I was getting those services, carpet diem, carpet
Oh,
something.
cool.
Yeah. So, but it was all through the resource center, and I was able to utilize that. But not everybody is. Like everybody's, some people are working the 9 to 5 and still going through treatment. Some people, have their kids, they still have to pick up, they have to do all these things. So I really like that a lot of the support groups are after 5 o'clock, and they're at 7 o'clock for a reason, because people are traveling. People traveling from Fayetteville and different areas just to come to this support group because they needed it, and it's
Yeah.
worth it. That whole
Yeah.
hour is worth it. So, oh my
Well,
goodness.
and I think too, we definitely struggle, like how, because if you do something in the middle of the day, you're going to get non-working, chances are older
That's what
patients.
was
So
happening.
almost all of our groups actually are
Mhm.
in the evening, I think, just because
Yeah.
it works better. And Cancer Transitions, actually, we had a pretty good base for the 6 week thing, but
Mhm.
I feel like it was even pre-COVID. It was right around when COVID started, but I think even pre-COVID, we went to one day on a Saturday and did it like basically a workshop, so the same, like each hour on a different thing,
Yeah.
but we just came and did a one day, and we get a lot more participation in it.
Really? That
Yep.
that that is great. I remember I actually came out there and did a talk during one of those things for
Yeah.
lymphedema. So that was good. And it really connects you with everyone, with the community that's going through cancer.
Well,
So
I owe you big time for coming. We got one of our grants, and we were teaching people at 23 cancer centers across the state how to do cancer
yeah.
transitions, and you came to talk about patient experience and your experience in cancer transitions. And
Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Every
I'm
time y'all
always
called, I
so
was there.
grateful for that. So you can get me to do just about anything.
Every time you called me because of I needed to give back.
Yeah.
I got so much from the program and I talk about it now and I talk about it on this podcast all the time. I talk about it on our broadcast all the time, what UNC has done for me because you were my second opinion. So going there and feeling like, okay, I'm going to get better or I have a chance of getting better, that's all that mattered to me. If people wanted to volunteer after COVID is over, what would they do to volunteer at UNC?
I would suggest contacting the Patient and Family Resource Center.
Mhm.
It's probably the best thing to do and find out really kind of um, what your options are. Because actually, you're a great example. Like you've volunteered in a lot of different capacities,
Mhm.
and there's one in particular I remember that just didn't feel good to you,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful that you were just like, not working for me, and found a new way to do it versus just being like, oh, never mind, I don't want to volunteer anymore because you know, you have so much to give. I'm so thankful that you volunteer, especially now with the PFAC. I think that's
I
really
love
great.
it.
So
I I
I think
love it.
and I think I remember when we did, every once in a while we'll do like a needs assessment
Mhm.
to see, what patients need or we're providing the programs that they want. Um and I will never forget in the top 10, and I want to say even like number 6 or 7 was how can I give back? So
Mm.
it's right up there. So I mean, a lot of people really want to find a way to give back, and I would encourage you to just kind of explore all the different options because we need people. We need people with all kinds of backgrounds. I mean,
Mhm.
from the Patient and Family Advisory Council, like we need lawyers, we need survivors, we need
Mhm. Tech
so people
people.
that so like you just need people with all these different accounting, like
Mhm.
there's so many gifted people that I think just don't realize, they just take for granted what they know how to do or what their gift is. And so um I definitely would encourage you to all your listeners to give back if you can and just but search and find one that's right for you. I mean, because
Yeah, definitely do that. And I think I have a suggestion. It just came to me. When they do the survivorship at the end of the survivorship, that should be one of the things that they include.
that is
Is
a
there
great
something you would like to do? We have all these things. If you benefit from it, would you like to give back? Because during that time, they're basically shipping you off, saying, okay, great, ring the bell. Here's your thing, your Purple Heart, the
yep.
song. Don't come back no more, no more, no more that they sing. I'm like, really? But asking them, would you like to give back when we're pushing, when it feels as if we're pushing them out the door? So that is
That's
going to
a
be my
great point.
suggestion for our meeting coming up this week.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point.
Yes.
And
So
I will definitely email our survivorship person right after this to point that out because I think that's a
yeah,
great point.
I I think see, and that's how it works. Just hearing from someone who's going through, having someone like you that we can trust, and you always come through. Now we're almost at the top of the hour. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? Just about what you do, how you do it, living your life, a good book, what are you watching? Anything.
Oh no, I'm watching creepy stuff. Um,
We bonded over Dexter, so I do remember that. And I was in the hospital
yeah.
trying to watch
Um,
the last one.
I think, um, and this is equal for women and men. Um, but I just can't say enough. My number one piece of advice would be to ask for support.
Mm,
And it's not comfortable. We're not used to it. I think even especially women, like we're used to just doing it all ourselves and not needing help. But the funny thing is we love giving help to other people, but
yeah.
it's the accepting of the help that feels uncomfortable sort of. Um, but you know, it makes people happy to help you and it gives them something to do stuff for you. And if you're going through cancer or if you're having trouble post treatment, let
Hmm.
people help you and take advantage of all the resources and try to search them out. And um, Yeah. So just seek out the support and accept the support.
Yes.
Because it's hard. And I know it's hard, but you need it.
Yeah. And Robina says that this has been great and very informative. So
Oh,
I am so happy that you came on tonight. Now I
my
need you to
podcast.
sprinkle, yay, sprinkle this around and say, hey guys, have y'all been on Chemo Glow? She is
Oh,
the
I
vice
will.
president of the PFAC. Can we support her, please? I'm
Well,
doing
and
big things.
I definitely owe you the name for that physician that talked about chemo brain, because he would be
Yes.
fantastic. So I will do that too this evening.
That's the top question right now, is that person, can we get someone on? And I don't know if you know Susan Kinney. She
Hmm.
is, yeah, so she's coming on May 3rd, I think, whatever, the first week in May. She's coming on, and I'm excited. She asked me, was there anything that I needed? And I was like, could you come on? She's like, yeah, the marketing team sent me stuff, all kinds of stuff. Accepting support is very hard. You're
Oh, yeah.
absolutely right.
It's
Yeah.
very hard, but it's
Yeah.
a necessary piece of it. And
Yeah.
like I said, think of people offering you the help that it helps them to help you. So if
Exactly.
it's hard to accept it, do it from the perspective of, if I let Sally help me, it's going to make Sally feel good. And then it turns
Mm.
out it also makes you feel good. And the more you ask for it and accept it, the easier it becomes.
It
And
does,
then when you get through it, you're going to want to pay it forward,
man.
just like we talked about. So
Yeah.
I
And just
think,
like we're doing.
yeah. And I think COVID too, this weirdo year that we've had, um, where we just have this like underlying level of stress. We
Hmm.
just have to like take care of each other. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Take care of each other. That's why I am back with the YSC, and I have connected with one of those women, and yeah, the support is needed.
yeah.
Shell, I thank you so much. Yay!
Thanks for
I
having me.
got you on.
You're like Terry and Talanya, and yeah.
And I'm sure I'm going to have some more questions for you, and I will make sure that I redirect everybody to the places that you mentioned, and we'll put in our link. But please share, follow, subscribe, tell your colleagues. It's
I
something that,
will.
this is my give back in a way where I can reach people who are going through, or are starting to go through, or just want to help, and they're always asking, well, what can I do, because I've heard about your story and you talk about it, and I keep telling them, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but it's nice for people to see that I'm actually connecting, and I'm doing exactly what I say I'm going to do. So
Well, and you're doing it your way. Like
yes.
you found your niche.
Yeah.
You found the way to take your passions and give back in this amazing way. And so
Yeah.
I would encourage all your listeners to just think of what their gifts are, and then they can give back using those.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate you. I'm about to sign off real quick. Guys, please make sure that you join us next week for Janine Jones, who also volunteers for the PFAC. And I just gave her a volunteer award because she volunteers for 11 out of the 19.
Oh, geez. Wow. Yay.
11 out of the 19. She has me beat. And she will be talking about, let me make sure I get this right. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's called large cell, goodness, large cell. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to bring you back in real quick. Large cell lymphoma. It was
You
on
know
the
what?
top of
My dad has that. He just got diagnosed with diffuse large B cell.
diffuse. Are you serious?
Yes. So whatever she's doing, I thank her. Yeah.
She is amazing. Listening to her podcast that is coming out, and she is 7 years out now. And after the 5th year, she said she's considered cured. And the 5 weeks that she has to, she had to be in there for 5 days for treatment. I don't know if it's changed, where you have your chemo for 5 days and then you come back and it's 5 days. listen to our podcast that's coming out, because it's why am I still here? She asked that question at the end of it, and she said she was this wonderful, happy patient, cancer patient, and then it was done. She was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it
I'll
is
definitely
so,
listen.
yeah, it's so amazing. And she will be on next Wednesday. And one of the things that she says is wear your good clothes and eat off the good china. So
Can I amend that you can wear good clothes from the top part if you're gonna be, like, on Zoom and stuff, and then yoga pants on the bottom? So go,
that's what I
Denise,
have
as
on
I
right
say,
now.
good clothes on the top and
On the top.
questionable on the bottom.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really do appreciate it. Stay on. Guys, please remember that the glow doesn't define you. You define the glow. I've been defining this glow for 10 years now. But what I learned on Monday when I did my special 10-year cancer free, goodness, that came up and it just hit me. My heart, my love. Apparently I had this glow way before I was diagnosed. So like Michelle said, find your gift and give. Guys, we're on Wednesday. See you next Wednesday. I appreciate you. Have a good one. Peace.